Hello lovelies, Marissa Carter here in Dublin, Ireland, and I'm sitting in front of a tree fern that is almost as old as I am. It is about 36 years old. I'm 38, and so your Dicksonia tree fern will only grow 1 foot in height every 12 years, so about 3 centimeters a year. So when you're buying a tree fern like this, you're really buying time. And they make the most magnificent statement in your garden. They have a real tropical vibe and just demand attention. Whenever anyone comes to visit me here in my garden, the Dicksonia Antarctica tree ferns are always one of the first plants that anyone remarks on or notices. They love Ireland, they love Irish weather. Ireland is roughly categorised as a Zone 9 USD, is that what it is? I'm not sure what it's called, but anyway, Zone 9 for gardening, which means that our winters rarely get colder than 0 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Fahrenheit. And the tree fern is said to be hardy down to about -10 degrees Celsius. So it really can't tolerate very, very cold winters. If you garden in a zone that's lower than 9, then you can plant these in a pot in your garden and then winter them over somewhere a bit warmer, a shed, a polytunnel, a greenhouse, inside your porch, somewhere where it won't freeze over the winter. One of the recommendations that I have heard, and I haven't done it yet, but one of the recommendations I've heard is that if you know that you're expecting very cold weather, then what you can do is you can wrap a bit of fleece around the trunk of the tree fern to protect it and stop it from freezing and dying on you. When you plant a Dicksonia Antarctica, you should use a bit of an organic feed mixed in with the compost. Make sure that the trunk of the tree is planted at least 10 centimeters deep, to make sure that it's steady and doesn't tip over on you. You can stake it, but I haven't tried that myself. I've just kind of planted it deep enough into the ground. They also really need to be planted somewhere that doesn't get an awful lot of wind, so somewhere sheltered from harsh wind. And the great thing about them as well is you can plant them in sorry, the cows are distracting me. We have cows in the field behind our garden, and they're coming to say hello. Where was I? What was I saying? Oh, so your Dicksonia Antarctica will thrive in full shade because they are natively grown in New Zealand and Australia, usually as an understory tree. So they're under larger trees that are giving them full shade. So if you have a damp spot in your garden that's just, you can't get anything to grow there at all, chances are a Dicksonia Antarctica tree fern will do really well there. They'll also grow in dapple shade, and believe it or not, in Ireland you can get away with growing them in full sun, provided you water them copiously. Now, when you first plant a Dicksonia Antarctica, you need to make sure that you give it water every single day for the first 6 months, and then stop watering it once the weather starts to get really cold, because you don't want to put water into it and then for it to freeze. That'll top your tree fern off on you. The tree fronds themselves, the fern leaves, they start off kind of curled up like this, and then they unfurl gradually with time. And I bought my couple of Dicksonia Antarcticas, I bought them last February or March, and when I planted them they looked like dead tree trunks. So when I bought them, they had all of last year's fronds cut off for transport reasons, and so I didn't start to see growth for about 6 or 7 weeks after I planted them, and the fronds come from the very center of the trunk and then they unfurl out. Each frond can get they can get anything from 1 to 2, 3 meters in length. So they are just brings to your garden is just, they're unreal. I absolutely love them. Plenty of water. Make sure that you give it a little bit of a seaweed liquid fertilizer at the start of its growing period, and really the size of the fronds is directly related, it directly corresponds, to the amount of water that your tree fern gets. So even if it rains, make sure that you give it supplemental water. When you're watering your Dicksonia Antarctica, you water it from the center, the crown of the plant, and then you also make sure you water the whole trunk as well. It's an unusual way of watering the plant, but that's where its main root system is. It does take a couple of years after planting a Dicksonia Antarctica. It takes a couple of years for it to get properly rooted into the ground. So again, just make sure it's not in a really windy spot either. When you're watering, use your hose on its lightest, it's like sprinkler setting or shower setting, because you don't want to damage the roots or the delicate fronds as you're watering. Or use a watering can or a jug, so just don't lash it with water from your hose. You just don't want to damage it. I believe that is everything that I know so far about growing Dicksonia Antarctica. I hope that was helpful. I hope you now feel maybe a little bit more confident about planting one in your garden, and I will add up any little extra tips up on the screen now if I forgot anything. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah!